sure it's fully finished, and then build up all of the details over the top.
Hey everyone, I hope this video finds you well. Today we are going to be going over a little bit of my watercolor process. I just wanted to give you guys a glimpse into what I do. If you aren't familiar with my work, my name's Lily Klose. My art name, if like on Instagram and everything, is Lily K Artistry, where you can find more paintings, info, and So now that that's out of the way, we're going to be talking about some light technique, just because I consider myself still a bit of a novice. Maybe not a novice, but I definitely have plenty to learn when it comes to watercolor. But the biggest thing that I've learned is just so much trust. I mean, it really starts off so light with watercolor, and it's a totally different process than working with an opaque medium. So giving yourself just some grace to learn and make mistakes really goes a long way. And also knowing that you can always kind of pull it back into focus when you need to. So as far as how I tackle pet portraits, having a reliable sketch is really necessary. I have definitely made a rough sketch, jumped into the painting, and then either I had to redo it completely just because I didn't put in enough work in the forefront, or just had to kind of like fight myself and work out different ways to get the look I'm going for. So having a base sketch is definitely where it's at. Voiceovers are hard, just bear with me, I'm gonna get better at this. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going in with these darker tones, kind of bouncing between warmer and cooler tones depending on the shadow. Going from lighter to darker tones can give you a lot more vibrancy and a lot more interest to your painting. So definitely play with some colors. I do mix most of mine. Sometimes I find something in the tube that I like enough that I use it straight, but I find that adding a little bit of an opposing color or just messing around with the color gives you some more unique style. All right, now that we're on to the husky, I didn't really know exactly what I was doing with this one. I don't paint a lot of white animals, and I wanted to add some color with, obviously still keeping her pretty white. This is Ava, by the way, and the other one is Jasper, I want to say, the collie mix. Anyway, so I decided to do the kind of color trio, yellow, blue, and pink. Of these colors, I mean, you find them in like most standard printers. They can really make up most colors, and when you add them in like a light principle, they make white. So that was just kind of my thought process behind including these three colors. I am keeping it pretty light to start with and just throwing it down kind of where I see fit. So another thing that was like a little bit challenging about the husky is I was originally, like, the photo that I'm basing it off of, my reference photo, there we go, has like kind of some direct sunlight hitting it, which is causing some strange shadows, and I'm kind of editing those out. I wouldn't suggest doing that if you're just starting painting or trying to get into realism. I think that if I did that a year or two ago, or was trying to play with the light or like change the light from my reference photo, it might not have turned out so well. So what I'm doing is I'm working on wet technique. I just laid down a solid pink layer, and then I'm going through and pulling up some of that with a clean brush, just rinsing it in water. And while it's still wet, I'm adding these darker edges. There we go, perfect timing. There's my reference. So you can kind of see how this, like, there is kind of like a black edge to most of the reference photo, but working wet on wet, it allows it to like just bleed into the pink more naturally. I don't really have to work on it so much. It just kind of does what it does. It's like the nature of the paint. So moving on from the nose, we're going to go up to the eyes, and this is another part where this is a huge focus, and where that underpainting, or not the underpainting, but the sketch really comes in handy. I'm working so closely with this reference just because I don't have a great grasp on painting like huskies. Other animals I can like throw it down or whatever, but if I have a really good sketch, I can kind of just paint with, I can kind of get more into that flow state rather than bouncing back and forth from a reference, but I digress. My main point is that like the eyes, nose, and color of tongue are like, which is, that sounds weird to say, but are some of the biggest things that I focus on when it comes to the pet portraits. I want those, like I rarely change the color of the eyes. I might make them more vibrant, but I really want people to look at this and just, it's morbid, but after their dog dies, I just want people to be like, oh God, I love this dog just looking at this painting. You know what I'm saying? Y'all feel me? Anyway, so I'm using another wet on wet technique, or rather, so what I did is just put a nice circle on the inside and then feathered it out with a wet brush, a clean wet brush. Here I'm adding some blue just to make this like a little bit more vibrant. I'm bouncing back with a lot of different blues when it comes to this painting. I started off with kind of a muted, more purple blue. I would call it like an ultramarine, though I think the actual color is... But I'm basically bouncing between an ultramarine and a more phthalo blue, just to simplify that. It's basically more like of a violet toned, like true blue would be the ultramarine, and then a phthalo can lean green or red. I'm leaning towards green right now. Sorry if that, like, if you guys would want me to go into color mixing and anything like that, I'm happy to, so just leave a comment and I will totally make that video for you. I'm sure you're just wanting to hear me explain more things. So adding these darker shades is where I start to get really excited. You start to see the depth. I'm adding some more vibrant orange to this guy just to brighten him up. I really bounce back between doing cool shades and warm shades all over. I don't have a total or like a steadfast approach with this. Like, it's really just kind of letting it go. If I'm not sure about something, I start really light and then just go through it. Oh, here we go, some whisker ducks, and I'm adding, I guess it's not necessary for me to narrate that I'm just adding pink to the ears, but I'm just trying to add some structure so you can see a bit more of the shape. I'll definitely darken these ears and add some shadows to the end. All right, so here's a glimpse into my how I approach backgrounds. So this is basically the same step that I did for that first layer you see and then I'm basically just gonna add some pink now. But giving this wet on wet technique really allows it to blend pretty seamlessly. I am trying to be careful to not get anything but the background wet. You'll see here in a minute where when I start working on the dog again, it bleeds a little bit, but all is well. I'm adding just some bright magenta just to deepen this background up. I'm sure that I'll go over the background a couple more times. If it is just, I don't know, weird or frustrating seems dramatic, but if it's frustrating to see like portion of a painting completed, let me know in the comments. Like, I just kind of went through this because you guys have to know I have recorded a solid 40 or 50 videos that have never made it to the internet just because I don't know, after 4 days of working on a video, I'm over it. I'm either like too invested, or I don't really know, this psychological hang up that I have that like stops me from putting it on the internet. But anyway, I just recorded this one day. It was enough footage that I could make a nice little video about it, and I'm just trying to put myself out there. Just trying to fight that battle of self-loathing and being a perfectionist. So if it's very frustrating, let me know and I'll try to put it accordingly, but really I'm just trying to give you guys a glimpse into what I do and also finally make a fucking YouTube video. Pardon my language. So on the nose, I'm working on some more of that shading. When I first initially put down that really dark layer, I had intended to come back in just a minute and like blend it out, but I forgot and it dried, so now I'm just fighting against myself. There was like the tiniest bleed there, if you can see just to the left of the nose where some of the blue went into. That's obviously not something that I really worry about, and I find that when I really try to correct it, I end up making it worse, so I just left it. And now we're going in with some darker colors and trying to, rather than trying, succeeding in making more depth. And this is, so I started in like opaque medium. I originally did acrylic and then moved to gouache and then to acrylic gouache. And I wanted to get good at watercolor because before the world went to shit, I was crass. Before everything started happening in the world, I was supposed to travel a bit, and I just wanted to use watercolor because it's just such an easy medium to travel with. So I've been getting better at it, blah, blah, blah. Don't even know what my point was when I started that sentence. So this comes into where I was talking about that, like that shadow, like that direct sunlight I was talking about earlier. So I originally painted it and I was like, well, that doesn't make sense if I'm gonna edit that out. So anyway, there's that. Going in with kind of a mixture of like magenta and then a rougey, kind of dusty orange color. But I wanted it to kind of mirror what's happening in the tongue with like that receding right corner and how there's more magenta there. I sped this portion up a little bit with the eyes just because since I'm a little bit more tedious with it when it comes to the eyes, just because I want to get it right, and since I'm working with a darker color, I need to just be like a little bit more precise with what I'm doing. Going in with some darker shadows in the nose. Basically, I mean, I'm really repeating myself just because with watercolors, it is such a layering thing. You're often like going back and forth. And one of my favorite technique is to just put a little bit of dark down, clean my brush, make sure it doesn't have too much water on it, but it is clean, and then I can just feather stuff out. You can see me doing that here with the lips. Alright guys, thank you for watching. I know that was a bit of a long one. That was really just like my first crack at doing a voiceover style video. So if you did like it, found it useful, give it a like or give me the gift of you subscribing. I can be found on Instagram at Lily K Artistry, and if you're interested in prints or anything like that, and more information about me, you can find me at lilykartistry.com. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.